Hello and welcome. My name is Yves Sandfort and today I'm going to present you VMware vCloud Automation Center 6.0, how to leverage a custom vCO workflow in vCAC and make it an advanced service. This is quite an important example. We are going to go through how to build that workflow in vCO and then how to add it to vCAC. Clearly, I'm fully aware that this example is quite simple and you can build more complicated things, but this is really for starters with vCO as well. So we are going to open the vCO client, so the vCenter Orchestrator client. We are going to attach to the vCO version which is installed with the vCAC appliance. That could be also on an external box, but we are now going to leverage that one. Log into that specific vCO appliance, and then we are going to build our own workflow completely from scratch. This is quite important, so you can follow step by step on how to build that workflow. So to build a workflow within the vCenter Orchestrator client, you need to actually switch to the design mode. For that, switch that menu from run to design. As we are good citizens, we are going to create a folder to keep our workflows in. So we are going to call that folder cap workflows. Hit OK. And now that we have that folder, we are going to create a new workflow within that, and we are going to call that change AD user password, as this is going to be a very specific one. So within that workflow, we first need to define an attribute. That's something we are going to leverage throughout the complete workflow. So we are going to create that error code attribute. That's mainly for us to keep track of any error messages arising. That's type string. We can keep all that as default. Next, we need to define what are input parameters. Clearly, if we want to change the password, we need to define for which user we are going to change the password. So the input parameter clearly should be the user we are looking for. So change the name of the input parameter to user and also change the type then from string to AD user. So that's a predefined object within the vCO workflow engine, which has been pre-set up with the system, so nothing you need to do. You can basically do this out of the box. Next, what we need as input parameters is the original password, or not the original password, the new password, and a secondary box to actually store the confirm password in. So we create another attribute, another parameter called password, and make that a secure string so that it's not that easy to actually leverage that. This way the system will store it, encrypt it, and not actually allow the user to review that. So you don't want to have the vCO developers later on check what the administrator set for password. So set another parameter, confirm password, with the same type, secure string, and that's basically for our very simple examples all we need. Now we go to the schema, and this is really where we build our workflow. So we just drag and drop the scriptable task onto our task line, so between the start and finish button. We are going to next throw exception onto the scriptable task. So if something goes wrong there, we want to see an exception being raised. And finally, we are also going to add an action element, which is the call out to Active Directory to change the password. For that action, we actually search for set user password. That's something which is pre-existing. If you load packages and stuff like that, we can just leverage them. So again, that's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. This is basically going to be our workflow. At the moment, it's not doing what we need to. So we need to actually add a few more things to it. So first of all, we are going to write the necessary script to check if the password and confirm password are basically identical. So for that, we define the input parameters for that scriptable task is going to be password and confirm password. Hit select. And we define that if there is any exception going to be handled, that should be thrown to our error code so that we can keep track of it. Finally, we go to the scripting tab, not switching tab. We switch to the scripting tab and customize the script for it. So that's pretty straightforward as well. It's just a little script which validates that the individual parameters of our workflow are the same. So what do we need? It's pretty simple. If bracket open, password, bracket closed, another bracket open, so the code bracket open, if password does not equal confirm password, and then we are going to throw an exception, and we basically tell the system unable to create a new password. Passwords are not, let's type it correctly, identically, and then we need to also make sure that we close all the parentheses correctly and make the indents and correctly, so that someone else can later on look through the code. We can see there is no error anymore. We can see from the colors in purple and green what we typed, and we can hit close for that specific script block. That's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. As you can see, not a lot to worry about. You could clearly become more sophisticated by actually checking if there is a number in there and all kinds of other things, but this should not actually be a training video for how to build a very, very sophisticated vCO workflow. It's just giving you a starting point so that you get a feeling. We also need to make a definition for our exception handler that we want to leverage the error code here. Just hit select, click close. That's all we need to do over here. And now we are nearly finished. Let's quickly validate what our set user action does. So scripting, nothing we have to change over here. Parameters, input parameter, password in parameter. It picked that automatically because we just leveraged the same name as it uses for itself. Output parameter, action result. We don't really need that. So nothing we need to specify here. But even if we don't need that, we need to define that it needs to become null so that the system stops complaining about it. And the same is for the exception. We don't really want to do for far more exception handling here. We just throw it again our error code. We click save and close, which will validate also that our workflow is at least valid. We click increase version to make sure that we have some version tracking in place. And as we can see, our workflow is now created. So let's head over into vCAC. Next step is to actually leverage the Advanced Services Designer within vCAC, and within that specific piece we are going to now actually add a services blueprint. In our case, we are going to see that our newly added workflow is just that second available within vCAC. We pick the workflow, we leave the details the same, we click next, and then on the blueprint form we are going to make some changes and adjustments to the field names, because at default we just take over the parameters from vCO and the attributes, and that's not too good. So we want to give it a label user, description user to change password for, and then the same for password and confirm password. We want to have that a bit more user-friendly from a design perspective, how that looks like. So we change the parameters here, and for confirm password as well. So call it repeat password. That's far more sophisticated, or not sophisticated, but far more user-friendly from that perspective. So that's basically all we do here. Hit next, we don't have any provisioned resource at the end, and click the add button. So now we have our newly created workflow integrated. We need to publish it again, otherwise we can't leverage it from the catalog. So again, click publish, and you can see from the green check mark that this process is now published. And the next step is go into administration. And then within administration, we are going to go to the catalog management and entitle that specific service to our users. Again, it's pretty straightforward. We have done that before in some of the other demonstrations. So select the catalog item, pick the specific change AD user, click configure. We need to attach it to the service. We are going to leverage the Active Directory service here. Hit the update button. and then go to the entitlement of our development users in that case, and within that entitlement we are going to click, come on, click the edit button, go to items and approvals tab, and within the items and approvals tab we are now going to add a new catalog item to the system, which is going to be change AD user password. Just checkmark it, hit OK, click the update button, and then we can basically move over to the catalogs tab and see that our newly created workflow is here. As you can see, within not even 15 minutes we created our own vCO workflow, we added it to vCAC and can basically now leverage it here. So it is really easy and straightforward to move things from vCO into vCAC and finally actually add them to a portal. That's really what XaaS as a service is. That's what we talk about when we talk about that. One thing clearly to mention here is this is by far not checking anything. In theory, with that process, you could change the administrator password, and if you allow that for every user, you can totally mess up your environment. So you would need to add additional checkups here, so that a user can only change his own password or passwords of colleagues or whatever else is necessary here. This is just a demo and showcase scenario. Never ever publish that process the way it currently is in a real life environment. It's just to show how quick and easy you can build something similar like that. So as you have seen, we have just done a password change. We will come back to that in just a couple of minutes. Before we go there, I wanted to quickly show you within vCO, you can actually expand the workflow. You see what we call a token within vCO, which shows you that the process has actually been fulfilled. You can see from the logs area, the individual areas, you can see the variables, development user, so you can even see which user this was run against. Let's close the vCO client and let's try to log in with the dev user and the newly changed password. As you can't see the password we are typing, you must just believe that what we just did was actually working. So overall, as I said, this is, I think, a quite impressive demo. We show you how to build your own custom vCO workflow, add it to vCAC, and then finally run it from vCAC, and that all of that below 15 minutes. So it's easy, it's straightforward. We can really build XaaS as a service or whatever as a service with a combination of vCO and vCAC with less than 15 minutes. So that's quite impressive. Again, this was VMware vCAC 6.0 custom vCO workflow integration. My name is Yves Sandfort. You can find me on Twitter at Yves Sandfort or drop me an email at y.sandfort@comdivision.com. Thanks for watching and keep watching.